This week, new details on an upcoming board game movie that you've all been waiting for, plus the world of tabletop games and pro sports collide.
And our topic of the week, we discuss an article that analyzes the hierarchy between reporters, publishers, and designers within the board game world. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast. Mayfair Games has announced a brand new version of Settlers of Catan, which will be releasing later this year for the 20th anniversary of the game. A little bit different about this game, however, will be the title, which is going to be no longer the Settlers of Catan, but instead the abridged version, simply Catan. So other than that, the game itself, I believe, will remain the same inside. They haven't released any details, at least, whether or not the components or artwork or anything will be upgraded or changed. But it is sort of interesting, this name change. Especially, we've always noticed in cataloging games for our site how I think all of the expansions for Settlers of Catan have only started with the word Catan. And much to our frustration in sorting things.
Yes. I believe the only one besides the base is the Star Trek one. I believe it has...
Oh, well, is Star Trek Catan.
Right, no, it's Star Trek.
It's not even Settlers.
I was trying to think what's not with Catan.
Right. But I think it's a smart move because it's a much shorter, catchier title that I think most people... Well, I guess people do say, do you want to play Settlers? Mm-hmm. But the unique part of that title is Catan. That's the part that sticks in
I think
head.
it's mostly just important because, like you said, almost everything else already has Catan on it. It's easier to just shorten than to change all the other.
So it seems like they've been working towards this for a long time, actually.
I mean, for all I know, maybe they're just like in the warehouse, screw it, we're all Catan. Like, what if that's the whole reation behind this?
They just got tired.
It's just the same thing. They got annoyed, too, with their own warehouses.
It is kind of a big deal, though. I mean, this is the... the grandfather of
gateway
games. Yeah, for our for their generation, sort of.
I mean,
and they're changing it a lot.
I'm fine. I'm like, okay.
It's weird. Like in the future, we'll be like, our day was called the Settlers of Catan. Now you don't know what's in the box.
We don't know. All we know is we're going to Catan. Yeah, your old voice. He does the best voices.
Anyway,
but, speaking of Settlers of Catan or Catan, depending on what generation you're watching this now.
That's right.
In recent news, it was learned that the Green Bay Packers, yes, the football team, actually spends some time playing board games, which is surprising considering most football teams, if you don't know, have an extremely rigid schedule because, well, they have to train pretty much 24/7 if not playing. The game was actually brought by one of their players, and he didn't expect what turned out to become extremely competitive among his team. So much so that, as soon as they got the 6-player expansion, the huge fights will go. Everyone has their own strategy, and it's sort of interesting. The article that we actually have on our site, which you can of course see, it's interesting to read because it's obviously from someone who isn't playing Catan and stuff like that. So the way they describe it sort of reminds me from the Pokemon or Magic is the New Pokemon article in a sense.
You can see a couple episodes back
because it's the way they discussed it was sort of like, oh my god, football players playing board games? This is crazy! It's sort of this interesting... even in the article, it said, now that football players are playing it, people aren't have to be worried about being seen as the kid in their basement.
It's this is a way bigger deal than the first openly gay football player. The first openly board game playing football player.
But I think it's interesting to see, because I've noticed, at least in my own life, a lot of people play board games who aren't really the heavy board gamers. They're just said so casually. It's different than saying I saw Avengers. Yeah, I played Catan.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I wonder if if they'll graduate to deeper games or not.
It does remind me of another football player, a Viking. I believe I'm about to butcher his name.
Wait, is he a football player or a Viking?
No, football player for the Vikings.
Oh,
sorry. He might be Viking. I don't know. Secretly, Chris Cooley, who actually is known because he's a big fan of video games, in particular recently League of Legends. He talked about being playing his favorite role.
How did they have time to be good at League of Legends when they...
I don't know. He's just that good. Okay. He's just you got a 5-minute break. Okay. Yeah, I'm gold. But I feel like the idea of the old
Jocks versus the
jock
nerds.
nerd that doesn't really exist anymore. I feel excluding the the internet paradox of the people.
It's different now.
Yes.
Certainly.
And I think it's a great thing, first of all. I think a lot of these things, it's not as much, what's nice is it's not as much just the fact if you're into it. Like, it used to be probably like, you play a board game, oh, you're a nerd. Like, we're so far away because, like I said, the article, the way it's written, like, it's like Monopoly and, like, the idea of people understanding what a board game is still far away from public. But, I mean, like, the same thing with movies. Like, comic book heroes we're seeing stuff. We're really seeing everyone fine with the topic isn't ruining, which is great.
It's cool.
It's only if, you go too far into it, which in some ways, probably, it makes sense.
It's definitely funny to see that this is an article in the Wall Street Journal, too, about these guys playing.
So we're
Catan.
seeing more and more articles.
Yeah.
And obviously people who haven't played these games, are starting to realize, maybe we should, because we're coming up with some really bad analogies.
Maybe we're
still waiting for them to talk about Parcheesi.
I'll get my football-loving brother-in-law to play some Catan.
No, you won't.
No, I won't. But that is cool. You should definitely check that article out. Speaking of Monopoly...
I love how we always speak every time.
You gotta get that segue. It's real important. As a matter of fact, this was sort of older news. For a few years, I've been reading about these sort of rumors that they'd been working on a Monopoly-based movie. And originally, Ridley Scott was actually supposed to be attached to direct it. That's long gone. But we finally have heard that it's going to start filming this summer. It does not have any cast or director announced yet. But we got a little taste of what the movie might be like, which is not, what you might think, some kind of political, economic thriller or something like that. But supposedly they compared it to The Goonies, in that it will probably be a group of kids going on some sort of an adventure that will presumably take place around Atlantic City and the boardwalk. And hopefully the Monopoly guy will be in it. I think maybe Abe Vigoda as Monopoly guy, or Christopher Walken or Christopher Lloyd. Those are my votes. But so this board game movie thing apparently is a trend that is going to keep happening, and we're going to have to go see this one as well.
Well, I'm really, in my head, I can actually see it working.
Yeah.
Like, I can sort of see it, because like you said, but the problem is, once again, Goonies is a different decade, too.
Oh, yeah, very
so
different
I know,
decade.
I feel like it's actually harder to compare. It actually scares me more. But I can actually, in my head, see it sort of like, I can see 80s, like, I'm seeing it still an 80s vision. So 80s, like, maybe early 90s, kind of. But, like, it's a treasure hunt, like,
almost like Da Vinci Code or something.
But for kids finding the pieces or something, and there's always an evil group like maybe who runs hotels or something. But I think it's possible. Well, of course, I'm not optimistic, especially after seeing Ouija board.
It's like we said in our. Did we do a whole topic about board game movies, or maybe just during Ouija? I think it can always be good because it's such a nothing game. Like, you could make any story you want. So we'll see. We'll find out when they announce the director and writer and stuff.
I mean, like we said, that sort of trumps everything. If they got bad people, it doesn't matter. If they got good people, then I like it.
Right.
But it's definitely something to keep an eye out. And also, just if it does actually well, like not even good, just money wise, we'll see more.
Yeah, Ouija already helps. So.
And even if it's almost, I'm fine with it if it makes money, even if it's bad, because hopefully then those maybe even games we know that could be good, like maybe that heavy American Ameritrash, whatever you want to call it, games, like Arkham Horror, like that actually has a story to it, so those could be made into movies and stuff.
Yeah, it would definitely be cool. So we'll root for it.
Right.
We'll pay for it, and we'll tell you how bad it is. What else?
So no, speaking of from that, but. A very popular board game company, Calypso, I believe it's pronounced.
Calio?
I don't know. I can't pronounce anything right today. They made a lot of popular games like Suro, and they actually are making a whole new set of games. I believe all through Kickstarter, or at least a bunch of them. And these games are called the Titan series, and pretty much they're trying to get a lot of really popular board game developers to make these sort of intro games or gateway games for people. And that's really cool because it's sort of like this whole series. It's thinking about it like this whole new series, but each one's probably different. I doubt it's like, Arkham and expansions or something. Or I'm trying to think. another game that doesn't like that. But it's a cool idea, I feel.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like they just let them just make something, a beginner sort of game, but from a really well-known designer. So and I know some of them were like Richard Garfield and some other really big names that, which is cool that they'll be doing something like that. Although he's kind of done games like that. But anyway, it's cool to have new ones.
What's also cool about it is we get to see all these big developers or designers, sorry, and we actually can look at them and be like, okay, how does each of them view a gateway game?
Right, yeah.
And I think that would be a really cool way to actually compare each of them and see, like,
it is cool.
We can actually see how this guy likes drawing mechanics more, maybe this one likes dice, and I think it's a really good way to compare all the games. And I think it actually be great for people who want to even make board games, because you're literally seeing all some of the greatest designers given the same challenge: make a gateway game.
Yeah. It's almost like one of those reality shows where they tell everybody, like, make this with these parameters and you see what they can do or something.
This is actually a new board game reality show. It's Top Chef, but it's Top Board Game Designer. In your basket, open up and you receive dice, it's a card game, and some meeples.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't work with meeples often, so I'm going to throw some...
Like, you must use the worker placement mechanic. Yours must be real time.
Deck building.
We're gonna work on this.
And the surprise ingredient.
We're pitching this to networks. But
surprise ingredient. Random. Oh, I don't like random. Random isn't good.
But they are all going to be on Kickstarter, which is the other cool thing. And if you back early, you can get a smaller price if you choose to back all of them in advance.
Which, of course, knowing me, I will do that.
And I bet they'll probably look nice on a shelf because they'll be all.
Oh my god, that would look so like if they are like books or something, like I don't know, something that that's the theme I want them. I want them to have that one thing going through that they all.
Well, they had kind of like a golden meeple was the logo they showed, so maybe that'll be there.
Yeah, but it'd be nice if or what if each box is like rainbow colored, so it actually like formed a rainbow or something.
Oh.
There's a lot of cool stuff they can do.
We'll see. That's supposed to be launching somewhat soon, so we will definitely let you know about it. Now, there was so much news this week.
So much.
Those are our big stories, but there are also a bunch of games and expansions that were announced for release. So what I'm going to do is run through them.
All right, we're going to time Jonathan. He's going to read out each one, and for each second over.
I think briefly we should give like brief reactions, if any.
I just imagine each of like, this one, yes, no, next
There
one.
are some big ones, too. Like, this was a really major week. So, first we got more, we already knew about Pandemic Legacy.
Right.
We saw a logo for it. It's officially going to be out at Essen this year in October. And there was also a thing on the image which said Season 1, which we don't know what that means yet. So there's going to be is there Pandemic Legacy Season 2?
Well, it's going to be like the flu, in which it morphs each year, so you have to buy, just like the flu shot, the game each year.
I mean, maybe. But that's pretty interesting that we had no idea there was going to be more of these.
Well, it could also mean
Legacy?
Just Legacy in general.
True.
Like, Season 1 is Pandemic, Season 2 is...
whatever it is. Yeah. Carcassonne. So...
Pandemic Carcassonne.
Legacy, yeah.
No, actually, no, that's what I want. Pandemic Carcassonne. So you have your little village in Catan. Right. Pandemic. There's like the sheep are diseased and you have to...
You're combining the wrong things.
No, I don't want Legacy. I want Pandemic with this.
I know. So that's exciting. That's exciting. We're very excited for that. Next thing, also exciting. This one is coming out later this very month. The Yu-Gi-Oh version of Marvel Dice Masters. Just Dice Masters. Yu-Gi-Oh Dice Masters. Same. Everything looks the same, other than new Yu-Gi-Oh theme.
Right. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I've noticed, at least with the trend with the last set, hasn't been nearly as popular. I mean, we've discussed how it could be just because the other one was so rare. And because of it, it seemed to maybe also kick off a lot of people from interest. Mm-hmm. This could bring a lot of people in because it's a whole new thing. It's not just, okay, we're getting no more Iron Man. We're actually getting Blue Eyes White Dragon and Dark Magician.
I'm sure all these Yu-Gi-Oh fans who didn't know about Dice Masters will now be coming in.
I hope there's an Exodia card that says if you get all 5 dice out on the field, you win.
Yes. Your opponent will never let that happen.
Actually, no. It has to be the arm, leg. Like, there's a dice for each piece. So you actually have to buy each piece and then build it.
Yes. Send them these notes. The kids call us Wiz Kids. Yeah, but there's not much to say about it because I think it's just more Dice Masters.
Right.
But it's cool.
I mean, it's cool.
There's nothing real crazy happening. It's just Yu-Gi-Oh.
Well, I think what's interesting, we should know, is remember Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game where there's creatures and spells. So I think what we're going to see, which we expected from Dungeons & Dragons, is not... Because Marvel's mostly all about the heroes, and there's some basic actions. I think we're going to get more advanced actions. Like, it might not just be have all your characters. You might have, like, Iron Man, Dark Magician, and then maybe a trap dice, where you buy, like, your own... It's like your own personal action. It's not a basic action. Yeah. So that's what I think...
That could be cool.
That's what I'm excited to see,
We'll see
they handle that.
once they reveal the cards, which will be very soon. So, next thing, this is the only, actually, all-new game, I think, is AEG announced. It's called Epic PvP. Did you hear about this?
No, I did not.
Well, it's going to be a Kickstarter. It is a fantasy-themed game where you're basically creating a character and battling with other players. But what's interesting is it sounds, to me, like Smash Up. In that the way you create your character is there are class decks and race decks, like like Munchkin or D&D or whatever, what have you. But you actually choose, like you would take a barbarian deck and a dwarf deck and mix them, and that's your character. So you
play cards against each other?
Yeah, it's a card game, and you're.
Is it only 1v1 or is it everyone?
I don't know the number of players. There have been a couple of previews. I'm not sure if they said whether or not it would be.
I definitely see that working, but. You know what's actually really good about that then?
What's
you can
that?
Just come up with the weirdest expansions. Like, this expansion you can now be dinosaur. Like,
well, wait till they announce that it's compatible with Smash Up then.
I don't know, see how that'd work though.
Yeah, it wouldn't work at all. It probably wouldn't work
but
at
I mean, the idea would still work. Like, you can have a dinosaur deck. It's not the same as a Smash Up.
I'm sure if it takes off, they'll retheme it a million times like Love Letter.
Of course.
Anyway, next up's a bunch of new things for Sentinels of the Multiverse and Sentinel Tactics. Of note, the Sentinels Villains expansion.
So in other words, what I predicted a while ago.
That's right. So I think it's another kind of more of the same, but with villains skin. So
pretty much, you've seen it in the Legendary deck building game. You've seen it in the DC deck building game.
Now you get to see
the Sentinel.
So next, another expansion, Dominion Adventures. Brand new Dominion. Has,
if you thought you couldn't fit enough Dominion
that's
already.
Right. 400 new cards and some new keywords, some old ones. It's Dominion.
Enjoy buying more sleeves.
And finally, Suburbia is getting a new expansion. Did you hear about this one?
You told me about it earlier.
It's called Suburbia 5-star. It has a bunch of new building tiles and allows for a 5th player to join the game, which I think is exciting. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to change the rules to allow for that 5th player.
I've enjoyed the game a lot. It's one we've actually played quite a bit, and I've played with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
I'm scared, mostly because I really like the way it is already. And it's not the new tiles I'm worried about. It's the 5th player, because as we've stated with Catan, I don't like the 5th and 6th player mechanic.
Right.
I mean, while it's nice to have that many more people, I think it just asking around, and I know you need to do that, it's just such a pain.
Yeah, I'm being optimistic and assuming that they found a way to do it right.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, that has been great. All their other games we've played from them have been great.
Yeah.
I'm scared, but I'm hopeful. Like, I can see it going bad, but I don't expect it to.
So, as you can see, lots of new stuff. I think Pandemic Legacy is still the one I'm most excited for.
I have to go through my... Actually, I think that... Well, I'm a big fan of Smash Up, so that AEG one is definitely...
And AEG has great stuff.
Oh, so. Yeah. But, like, no, definitely... Anything... The Legacy idea is just...
It's just so cool.
Especially a lot of games could work.
Yeah.
Or, like I was saying, Pandemic would be hilarious with everything. But no, like, even the games I did say Pandemic with, really, Legacy would work too. Like, imagine a Catan... Depending on how you built it, like, actually then, like, all right, because he won last time and this was his first city, that's not a desert now or something.
The possibilities are endless.
There are a lot of great games that could really take advantage of the Legacy style. It only means, though, you better have the same playgroup forever.
Right. But you can talk about that yourselves in your own study groups after the show is over. For now, we're going to get out of this segment and get into Kickstarter Pickstarter.
My Kickstarter Pickstarter is Spirits of the Rice Paddy from Ape Gamer. In this game, you take the role of a Balinese, I'm mispronouncing terribly, but from the Indonesian island of Bali, rice farmer.
I think that's right.
Awesome. So you're taking the role. It's a worker placement game. Where you're taking the role of the rice farmers, and you have to work on making sure moving boulders. So you have more room to grow rice. Get animals and get rid of the pests and also weeds. But to help you along with this are the spirits from their world. And before each round, everyone gets to use a spirit, and the higher number of spirits are much stronger. But that also determines the order of who gets water. So you might, if you get a super strong spirit that helps you, like maybe clears out all rocks in your field out or something, it could actually make you miss out on water. So it's this
Water's important.
Yes, you need water for rice. If you don't know that, sword needs a lot of water. So it's this great balance between trying to use strong cards and also making sure you actually can grow the crops. It looks really cool, interesting theme, which was what first drew me to it. Yeah. It looks like a really great worker placement style because there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. It's not just, build this. It's actually like moving the rocks, It's not, how most worker things with a farm are just harvest carrots or do this. It's actually really getting the nitty gritty of the pests, you want to get certain livestock to help you, plow the fields and
Reminds
stuff.
me of Harvest Moon.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. Yeah. And the spirit artwork, like each card is actually different, looks really cool. And of course, there's like bad spirits that hurt opponents, like Spirit of Pestilence and stuff. So I thought it looked like a really great worker placement game. It's for $40 if you're in the U.S. And you can add $10 on for their amusement park game, which looks pretty interesting at $10. Not too bad.
Sure.
And shipping's included in that. If you're anywhere else, they have different tiers. Also, if you're picking it up from, I think it was Essen. But definitely want to take a look at, especially if you're a fan of worker placement.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I like the theme. It sounds like also we like Ghost Stories, which is sort of like along the same lines.
Yeah, except you're not dying miserably every time you play.
Right. Well, it depends. You might. Mine is a weird one that I just thought merited a discussion this week. It is the Cones of Dunshire Kickstarter. This is Mayfair Games again in their news this episode. Of course, if you don't know, I think we've even talked about it on the show from before. Cones of Dunshire was a fake game for the Parks and Recreation TV show. They eventually made a version of it to play at Gen Con, which was this huge version that took up like an entire room. And now they have this Kickstarter, primarily I think to promote season 6 of Parks and Rec, which just started. So what's interesting about it is that this is the deluxe edition of the game that is being sold at the full size, and to get the game itself, the minimum tier you must back it at is $500, which is a lot for kind of a joke game. So what we were talking about before was I'm a little skeptical as to whether or not this is actually a real thing. So if you read the page, it does seem kind of legit. They have add-ons. They have a lot of tiers with stuff.
But what's the minimum they need? That's their goal?
Their goal is 300,000, and they're at like 18 as the time of this recording. At least.
And how many people backed the actual game
15 people
15
when we
people.
last looked. Had backed the actual game because $500.
A friend of ours that time, he didn't know. He backed it at $100 thinking he's getting the game.
A friend of ours, it was Neil. He works for the site.
And what did he get at that tier after you read it to him?
I believe it was the box.
The box. $100 box. That's a great deal.
So I don't know if it's even going to make it.
Do you want it to?
Well, I mean, I don't not want it to. I mean, if people want to get it and pay for it, I'm happy for them. But I don't know if personally, if like we were saying, if they should do a smaller version you could actually play. I don't know if I really want that because.
Could you imagine if you're like, it's worth it? I'm getting this $500 game, and they're like, oh yeah, since it actually went through, we're making a $60 version. That's like,
yeah. So yeah, I kind of get the feeling this is mainly a promotional thing, if it even goes through. But it does seem, from reading it, like they are prepared to go through with it. I don't know.
I mean, if you're a fan of Parks and Rec, check it out because the
video
itself is funny because it's it's all the accounting people.
Yeah.
Or at least it's supposed to be.
Right. It
but
is funny. So
yeah, so it's definitely something to look at.
Worth the look.
Yes.
There's no print and play.
You can buy the 500 if you really like it.
Like it.
We're not going to stop you.
Or just they have T-shirts and stuff.
Or the
if
box.
It gets funded. Or the box.
Or the box.
You can just tell people, yeah, we could play it, but I'm busy right now. So
I think for now it's time we put down the cones and pick up our topic of the week.
Board game website Whose Turn Is It Anyway put out an article. It was actually a few months ago now that we've been wanting to talk about. We just finally have got around to it. If you're not familiar, they do reviews and podcasts. We'll put a link below, of course, to the article. The article in question was titled The Confusing Hierarchy of the Board Game Community. And I just found it very interesting and thought-provoking, and I wanted to discuss it. Basically, it talks about way that bored people in the game industry recognize bored people recognize or don't recognize creators versus designers versus publishers versus reviewers of games. And the way the article actually starts is it shows a bunch of pictures of board game people. I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for. People in the board game industry, and asks you, the reader, to see if you can, how many you can name. And I don't know if you actually attempted it.
I looked at it, and I'll tell you. I'll get to that because I'm a little different than most people.
Okay, well, we're both a little different. I mean, I'll tell you, from I think it was 20 people, I knew I could name like 4 of them, and 2 of those were reviewers and 2 were designers.
I can name 1, and I wasn't 100% sure on. I'm terrible with, you see.
You're not good with names and faces.
Yeah. I will get to that later when I discuss that.
And that's
it's
coming from.
But I will say
us.
It was a reviewer.
Okay.
Which gets to the point of his art.
Yeah, the point was, isn't it interesting the way that people in the board game community, especially board game players, tend to recognize and praise the reviewers as opposed to the people who are actually creating this content, the majority of people don't even know who they are. I mean, including, a lot, we still learn a lot of new names and faces in doing this job. So yeah, it's a weird thing because unlike, in Hollywood movies and directors and actors or in a music, it's as if like if everybody knew who Roger Ebert was and didn't know who any of the actors were.
Well, I think here's the big issue. He in the article, he views it strictly from the board games. Doesn't look anywhere else. If you look outside board games, you see why this trend exists. In movies, such that we see the actors constantly. Like I still can't name any actors, but I can name a lot more. Mm-hmm. But with board games and video games, you don't. But we live in an age where there are a lot of people who do YouTube videos reviewing them, but not even just reviewing them. We see them playing and being silly. And I think that is why those are the faces we see, because we see them. And not only that, we see them being fun and lighthearted. And they when you buy a new game, it's like, oh, you guys told me to buy that. And I mean, even South Park did a whole episode. They got what's his name? The YouTube.
PewDiePie.
PewDiePie. And that's the kind of thing. We're seeing that trend when it's sort of it's not as much about the game itself, it's someone being silly with the game. Now, I will say this for me. Mm-hmm. I would definitely love to actually he says no one buy a drink for games. I'd love to go out just to a bar with some of these designers.
Well, they were saying specifically actually it may have been a woman who wrote it. I'm not sure.
Oh, I apologize.
But I don't know.
I totally forgot who. Yeah.
But they were saying how at a convention they would always see the reviewers are the people who are there. People are going up to him oh, can I get my picture with you? Meanwhile, the guy who made the game is sitting there hey.
No, because I've at least the times I remember that excite me the most. I should also mention later that we are reviewers, so it's sort of an interesting.
It's a weird thing for us to talk about too.
The most exciting things I've had so far going to board game conventions was playing with the co-creator of Abyss.
All right.
And getting him to actually sign that game, and also meeting Robert Burke.
No, I mean,
and like I said, if I actually, because I don't think about asking do you want to hang out or something, because in my head that seems that's
a little weird for anybody.
Yeah, that's why when she mentioned when the article was mentioned the article and when I speak English, it's I would like to do that. I just seem I'd be so embarrassed. That's one of the reasons I also don't go up to a lot of people. Would be because I think it's awkward and weird in my head.
Well, we sort of have an in where we were able to...
Yeah, but even so, it's more I just want to say hi with this, and then I want to leave because I don't want to bother you anymore because you have much more important people and things to do.
But I think probably most of them would love to hear from people. That's why they're there.
That's true.
I know when for me, like you said, with meeting people, I know when we met, got to meet Ignacy Trevicek was really awesome for me, and Yeah, like
the reason,
it's fun.
Like I said, when I'm bad with names, the reason I was thinking of him, I'm like, I don't know his name, so I'm not going to even try to ruin it.
Right. But at the same time, it'd be cool to see Tom Vassell and be like, hey, what's up?
It is. Well, we should mention on another point in the article, we have to mention it because it involves us, the ethics from reviewers. Speaking of which, because we actually sell board games on our site, which is a very good point.
Yeah,
yes, it's just, but I do have, because I think about in the video game industry that's becoming not journalism in general, but like there's recently been a couple issues when game designers, not the reporters, but the game publishers, will send out their game to them, but say like, you are not allowed to release the video until like a week after it comes out, or they had to sign some agreement, which is crazy and makes no sense. Like,
in a video game, there's actually a story, and they don't want you to reveal like parts of it. In a board game, you just see the experience is mostly contained in one area. So it's very different.
I know with a lot of the issues, a lot of the people point out that it pretty much, at least for one game, I won't mention, but it sort of hit a lot of the errors the game had. And while another one had the weirdest, strictest rules for a game that was good. They didn't need to add all these crazy rules.
Companies are weird.
So I understand the fear of like us being able to be like, you should promote this game, which is sort of funny because all our play videos, it's one of the reasons why we don't say this is 10 out of 5, because really it all depends on your opinion.
Mainly,
also we've been doing all the games we own, which is also unfair because...
Well, I know this is sort of going off topic, but I know a lot of people have a problem where a lot of reviewers do that, which is kind of what we do, which is you mainly only talk about the games you like. And really, criticism can be often more interesting when it's games that you don't like.
That was the great thing about the DC one, because you actually are
right. We had a little bit of a discussion there, but it's also then that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
I think that's another topic in itself. But
but it has to be mentioned because it mentioned the article, and that's weird here. We have to. I think we need to come clean right off the bat.
We gotta come clean, man. But yeah, it definitely is an interesting thing to think about. That ethical thing is worth thinking about. And on the other subject of the article, I would love to see a bigger push in the industry to get people to learn the names of these designers, and maybe even if. I mean, I think it's starting because a lot of them are becoming more vocal on Twitter, which is a great service. And just having their names, the more you usually are on the box. And I know as we started playing more and more, would start to notice like, oh hey, these games I really like are all by this one guy.
Yeah, no. I think that will slowly come to pass. I know, like for me, in movies, for example, once again, I'm bad. I'm pretty much bad in everything when it comes to people, but I do now have like a director. If I see his name, I will instantly I'm gonna like it, even though there's a chance I couldn't.
It's helpful as a consumer, not even just as to respect the artist, but if you like that person's games, you want to keep track of it.
And the thing is, it's not the designers and publishers are doing that. Like they do, like you said, they go through Twitter.
Some of them,
yeah, a good deal of them. I feel like it's a significant amount. And it's definitely something you should look at because there are some games I was surprised to learn from some the creators of Cthulhu Wars. When I learned that he made art, I'm like, I should know more. I should know more about him since that's sort of the series I always mention.
So we're always learning. There's always more to learn. Anyway, it's a really interesting article. I'm happy we finally got a chance to look at it.
And you know what? Next time you're at a convention, you see them, you see them sitting alone, sit down, play with them, or ask him maybe be better than me, and maybe ask him if he wants to have a drink to talk about games or something. That would be pretty cool.
Maybe if you're not creepy.
So in other words, as long as you don't look like this.
Right. If you're attractive, you can do that.
Yes.
But we will put a link to it. Please do read it and tell us what your thoughts and reactions are to it as other reviewers or perhaps non-reviewers, or if they're by some chance as a designer or publisher reading this and wants to give us their thoughts. We would love to hear it. Or if you have a suggestion for a future discussion that we could have or a question on another podcast episode, please send them to us in the comments or to our email address, rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, there's our site where we'll have this video posted as well as many others and many other articles like the ones we just mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And of course, all the board games which we sell.
Oh, yeah.
We forgot that we should mention that.
Yeah, lots of great games that we sell, and they're great deals. It's rollforcrit.com. And please, if you don't mind, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. You can find those links and handles all around us right now on the credits page. And that's it.
Yeah. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes. This has been the Roll for Crit podcast.